Hey guys, welcome back. It's Joanna, and today I want to tell you about 3 things that you might not know about baby sleep. I think there are really unrealistic expectations about what baby sleep is like. Is your baby sleeping through the night yet? My baby is not sleeping through the night. He never has. Maybe he will. I don't expect it anytime soon. I think when people are going to be parents, they either anticipate babies being awful sleepers and nightmares, or they have babies that are little angels who sleep through the night and never call for help. I think this is a really toxic dichotomy of what it means to have infant sleep. Reality is, most babies don't really sleep very well for the first 2 years of life. There's a study done that actually says that babies, their sleep quality and sleep duration is really variable through the first 2 years of life. These 3 tips will really help you to understand what is normal and how to frame it in a more positive way. First of all, just like what I said, what is normal baby sleep behaviour? Normal baby sleep behaviour changes all the time. When they're newborns, their sleep architecture is completely different from an adult and from a 5-year-old's. When they hit the 4-month sleep regression, their sleep cycles change, and all of a sudden they're waking up now. Are they going through a developmental milestone? Are they learning to walk or crawl? Are they teething? When they hit a milestone, their sleep suffers. They've got a tooth coming through. That can be a few days of constant nursing and Bonjela. It's rough. Are they going through a psychological leap where all of a sudden they've got separation anxiety? All of these things, if you empathise with them and understand what's going on, it makes night wakes so much easier. When my baby would wake up all the time, honestly every half an hour, I didn't know if that was normal. And I put myself under so much stress in the first 4 or 5 months of life. Every single night I would spend reading, finding articles, being on Peanut, Reddit, research papers, everything to try and find out whether my baby was sleeping normally or was abnormal. And let me tell you, he was very much normal. He was a breastfed baby that had reflux. He was going to wake up all the time. Another reason why babies wake up really frequently is to protect against SIDS. Babies that are more likely to suffer with SIDS often have reduced arousal. So babies that wake up frequently are actually at less risk of SIDS. In the first few months of life, their respiratory systems, their heart, everything is really weak and vulnerable. When they're so young, especially in the first few months of life, and they're sleeping alone in a separate room, or they're sleeping for really long periods of time, it can actually be quite risky. So actually, them waking up is actually really protective against SIDS. There's a reason why all the guidance says to have baby sleep in the same room as you for at least 6 months. Now, everyone thinks that when baby turns 6 months old, you put them into their own room, but actually the guidance is for at least 6 months. Ideally, I think it's a year that they're in the same room as you. Though the reason is because yes, they link up in their physiology, but also the reality is that if you're putting baby to bed at say 8 o'clock and you're coming in at 10 o'clock, you're probably going to wake baby up. And you know what? That's a good thing. Because you're waking baby up, you're rousing baby from what could be a deep slumber. And rousing babies from deep slumber is really protective against SIDS. Leads me on to point number 2. Babies and mum, all of their physiology matches up. So that's everything from heart rate, oxygen levels, their blood pressure. Let me see what else I've got. We've got breathing rates. We've got sleep state, we've got temperature. So many physiological things all match up when their mum and baby are in this close proximity together, and all of a sudden they're much less at risk of SIDS. We started co-sleeping at 4 months. I noticed that I would wake up and honestly, within about 10 seconds, Harris would wake up. He would have been sleeping like an absolute log, and I'd wake up for some reason. And then he'd wake up straight after. It was so strange. Our sleep states are synced up. And this leads me on to point number 3, which is that babies are designed to be near mum. What I mean by this is, if you don't want to hear it, cover your ears, co-sleeping. This is something controversial, but it's actually being advocated a lot more by the NHS and by midwives, because if you do it safely, it can be really beneficial for breastfeeding. All these 3 points really do just kind of match up. Babies wake up all the time. If you anticipate that, it's going to be much easier for you to deal with. And when you sleep near baby or next to baby, their physiology matches up with you. And the third thing is that if you co-sleep with baby, they are going to wake up, especially if they're a breastfed baby. But breast milk gets digested really easily. It's basically just full of sugar, and their tummies are so tiny that they digest it like that. So babies do wake up quite frequently. But if you co-sleep with baby, they can just latch on, feed, go back to sleep. Breastfed mothers are on average actually get the same as or even more sleep than formula fed mums, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But what's interesting about co-sleeping is that all mammals do it. Gorillas, chimps, dogs, cats, cows, they all co-sleep with their babies. He started co-sleeping in 4-month regression, which I'll make another video about. Yes, even though I was co-sleeping, he would wake up all the time, but he learned that I was always going to be there, and now he's in his own cot and he sleeps independently. He can go back to sleep if everything's okay, because he knows that I'm always going to be there if he needs me. I know that this is the case because he would wake up fully every single time. And then he started to just like link sleep cycles every now and then. When you're a new mum or dad, it's really easy to look up online about baby sleep and when does my baby sleep through the night? And let me tell you, there's so much misinformation out there. I have looked up so many studies, let me tell you, and loads of studies that talk about how many babies sleep through the night. Most of them are done in like the 1950s, 60s or 70s. They're nearly all self-report studies, so the data is really flawed. Parents often, back in the day, they would put baby in their own room or sleep in a separate space to them, or they would sleep train them by something like Cry Us Out. And so when baby wakes up in the night, they're not being answered to, or they're not even being heard by mum or dad because they're sleeping separately. So those parents in the 1957 study, they would report that baby didn't wake up. Some crazy statistic, like by 3 months old, 70% of babies sleep through the night. That is not actually the case. But they would have thought it was the case because 70% of mums and dads aren't getting up in the middle of the night to their 3-month-old baby because they're probably in a separate room. Does that mean that baby's waking up? Well, there are other research studies that show that actually whether a child's been sleep trained or not, they actually have the same amount of night wakes. The difference is whether they're calling out for mum or dad. But what I've noticed, and I haven't sleep trained my baby and we've co-slept for a few months off and on, is that my baby has learned to just go back to sleep. No baby can self-soothe. So if there's something that's bothering baby, for instance, they're teething and they're in pain, whether sleep trained or not sleep trained, that baby's going to wake up and they're going to call for mum or dad because they're in pain. Sleep training is basically trying to train your baby to settle back to sleep if everything's okay. My biggest recommendation if you're a new parent, stop scrolling online and just go with the flow of your baby. If they need you, go and help them, go and tend to them, go up every single time. And to be honest, if you can do it safely, if you're not on any medication, if you don't drink, if you don't smoke, and you can have a safe sleep space, co-sleep. It's honestly absolute game changer. Now, I think it's time for my baby to wake up from his nap. Now that he's 8.5 months old, he gets his long naps. All of a sudden, we're through the 4-month regression. If you'd like to know more about how we got through the 4-month sleep regression, let me know in the comments, give me a like, subscribe, and on that note, I'll see you next time.